My name is David, and this is The Big Shut-In. It's Thursday, June the 18th, day 96 of sheltering in place. And I've been very confused the last week or so. Here in New York, things are definitely different than they were a few weeks ago, a month ago, certainly. There's a lot of good news locally that we seem to have flattened the curve a lot. The daily infection counts are way down, and they have been for several weeks, and people are starting to loosen up. The ice is starting to crack. People are going outside more. In our neighborhood, there are a lot of little backyards, and you see people sitting in them together in groups, sharing meals. And it seems that people are doing that in a couple of ways. They're doing these sort of socially distant hangouts where, groups of people are sitting 6 feet apart from each other and sort of interacting at that remove. And people are also creating what they're starting to call social pods, where, our family has decided we're going to interact just with your family. And so we're opening up from 4 people to 8 people. And, your brother can come over too and bring his wife and kids, and mom can come. And since we're all isolating separately, we'll all just start isolating together as well. And that way we can get a little bit of social interaction. And you see people, the parks are starting to open up, and kids are running around mostly with masks on, and all this is good. But then there's this dark cloud over the whole thing, that the numbers in the rest of the country are not good. Particularly in the South and West, places that opened up fully real early or never really closed to begin with, are really starting to spike the way we did here back in March or April maybe. And so it's hard to know really what to do. I don't know what to do right now. We have older family members that we'd like to see and visit who are very nervous about us opening up our social circles at all. My mom has pretty much said, if you're going to start hanging out with people, and then please don't come visit me. And I want to visit her. And so we've been holding back. I've been trying to be very cautious. Some of my friends who I really do want to spend time with are being much less careful than I'm being now. And part of me just wants to join them and go and take this opportunity. Their attitude seems to be, we have a moment now before the wave comes crashing back towards New York. We have a moment now to have a little fun and relax a little bit, because things are a lot safer here than they were. But I just can't do it, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what is right. I don't know what the right choice is. There's so little guidance. You hear the goddamn president of the United States still talking about how this is a hoax. And the problem is we're testing too much, and it's just, and the numbers are going up and up and up and up in places like Texas and Florida. And anyway, in all this confusion, I'm continuing my project of reaching out to some of the first people I spoke to on this podcast and getting an update. How are you doing now? How are things changed? And today, I'm going to talk to the very first person I spoke to for this show. My friend Angie, who lives just a few blocks from here in Queens with her family. And we spoke on the very first day of her family's quarantine, which was also the very first day of my family's quarantine, 96 days ago. And as always, she's smart and funny and open. And it's great to hear where she's at and how she's feeling, and how things are a little different and how things are not different. And so I'll hand things over to Angie. How you doing?
Better than I thought I would be. at 97 days, I would say. Like if you would have asked me, how do you think you'll be feeling 97 days from now, knowing that not really anything has changed, I would picture a scenario that's bleaker than what I actually feel right now. So that's positive, I think, which leaves a lot of room for things to not be great. But I don't know. I feel pretty lucky.
What were you picturing?
I think I thought I would just be uh, very like find it difficult to get out of bed and angry at the kids all the time, short fuse, stressed out. Like that's the what I thought. That's how I would have defined like I'm a mess, quote unquote, is just me personally feeling like at the end of my rope constantly. Uh, and there are certainly days like that, moments like that, but I don't. I think things are generally not that bad.
Good.
Right.
I have to
Exactly.
say, I have to say, if you were to ask me how I'm doing right now, it would not be an incorrect assessment to say that I'm having trouble getting out of bed and I have a really short fuse and I'm yelling at the kids all the time. Um, so there's that.
That's
um,
that's
uh,
not that's not surprising either. That's actually less surprising. Um, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like it's not all just waking up and being like, "Oh, it's amazing how great I feel." No, there are definitely those moments, and but I feel like after 97 days, we've figured out a few ways to mitigate those disastrous moments. um, so some days were more successful than others. That's for sure.
you said nothing's changed, and I actually want to talk for a minute about what has changed or what is changing
Sure.
because I'm very confused right now. I don't know if you're feeling the same way, where
Mhm.
things are sort of people are starting to kind of have gatherings of one kind or another. Like it's just a little more people are acting like things are getting better. And they are better here, but I feel like people are acting like it's better than it is, and that very much confuses me and I don't know what to do with it. It's like why were we if we were just going to decide because I'm torn about it, right? On on one hand, I agree that this is no way to live and I can't keep this up and the kids need to play and we cannot continue this level of sort of stress and organization. But at the same time, if we were all just going to collectively as a country decide, well, that's enough of that, then why did we ever do it to begin with?
Right.
Is my two feelings. Where are
Yeah.
you with that right now? Like,
Yeah. I don't. I feel the same way. I do. What's tough to understand is why things like even just the phrase things feel different because they really do. But why and what where does that come from? Is it just like a vibe that you get when you're outside or when you're talking to people? Things seem less, bleak. But but right, like you said, nothing with the virus has changed. It's not less deadly or less contagious or less fearsome in that way. Um, but but it does feel different, and it does feel like there's a sense, at least in New York, that this idea of flattening the curve that sort of worked. And I don't know, I don't have a scientific grasp on how well and what how long that axis actually is in terms of how long it needs to stay flattened and all of that. But I think there is a sense that there was a point to it, because had we not done what we did, then that curve would have spiked high enough that the healthcare system wouldn't have been able to keep up, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like, why didn't we just do that? Why did we do this at all? I think it's just, it's awkward and messy coming out of it and understanding what we do now.
But are we coming out of it? I don't feel like I'm getting any clear direction from anyone.
Well, right. I guess I mean out of that curve flattening moment of crisis, where we had all of these asymptomatic cases riding the subway every day, and nobody knew who had it and who didn't, and nobody was doing anything about masks or distancing or anything. We did get to that spiking place, I think, because of our ignorance around what we actually needed to do to avoid getting it. But now that we have come through that moment of crisis, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm totally willing to entertain that. But that's my feeling on it, is that there has been a point to doing it. It was worthwhile. It's just hard to know where we go next.
Is there a motorcycle in your bedroom?
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Right. Yes. That's one thing I was going to mention, that we bought a motorcycle and we keep it in the bedroom.
Listen, I don't judge. So what are you doing? Like we're really, Kieran and I are really at the end of our rope a little bit with the juggling of work and the childcare. Like, we just can't keep this up much longer, honestly, without going completely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm starting to talk to people who are like, yeah, we're getting our babysitter back now. And I just don't, is that okay? Like, what are you guys doing? And what are we supposed to be doing? I don't know why I think you know the answer to this, but you're the one I'm talking to today. So what am I supposed to be doing, Angie?
Well, I'm glad you called, David. These are important questions. No, so when I say that we have been really lucky, it like, we have been really lucky for a number of reasons. But one of the lucks has a serious downside, which is that I haven't really been working. So, I think that I have mostly worked with hotels and restaurants for most of my career. And that's obviously an industry that doesn't have a lot of need for design collateral at the moment. So things have been really slow work-wise for me. They haven't been totally dead. I've had a couple of projects here and there and long-term clients that are just keeping a few things going for when they're able to reopen. But I haven't been working so much that we've needed to really coordinate the office usage and the parenting versus work time and juggling that, which is nice to not have that be a point of contention and crisis. One of us works a lot and the other does not, and is therefore, the default school parent and lunch making parent and screen time monitor and all of these more child focused, home focused duties. So
dare I use the term housewife?
Do not dare.
But how does that, do you like that role for yourself? I mean,
no, not particularly. And I think some of the moments when I felt the most like my darkest moments in this have really been less about it's so hard to homeschool or, where I feel trapped or things like that. And it's more just about feeling like as a person, who am I anymore? Like I I'm not working a lot. I'm like a stay-at-home mom. I I don't have a social life outside of texting my mom groups. um, and just feeling like, what the hell happened? This was not what I wanted, and this is not who I am. And so, without those things, who am I? And I think, I've been able to, on most days, take those sort of spiraling thoughts and put them in a box and not let them overwhelm me. But that doesn't always work, you know.
Yeah. I, wow. I mean, do you see um do you see the next phase? I mean, do you see a way out of where you are now, sort of around the corner, or do you think it's a long way away?
Um, I mean, I feel like we're all redefining what is a long way away. What is time? What are days? Uh, I do think that that there. I don't feel like what I how things used to be is totally out of reach. Um, but I think a lot of it, to be honest, depends on what happens with school.
Yeah, for sure.
Not only just for my ability to handle it, but my client's ability to return to work. And it's just all hinging on, at least in our family, what happens when the kids would normally be returning to school. And if we're just doing this again in some form, that feels bad, man. That
Well,
feels
I think that would be the breaking point for
yeah,
me and for a lot of people. Like, I can hang on for the summer,
yeah,
but if schools don't open up again in September and we're supposed to do this, we're supposed to homeschool, you know, for another year. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I can handle that. It doesn't sound like you can really maybe handle that. I don't know that the economy can handle that, because I think you're right. I mean, that's the crux
yeah,
for everyone of sort of our age, which is I mean, we're prime time for work time right
yeah,
now. Like, this is when people build their careers and make their money, and that if we all just have to continue to be second grade teachers,
right.
I don't know. They
I
got to come up with something better than this.
Yes, but I also think, like when you said that's the breaking point, I agree. I, and yet this whole experience has pushed me to say, but, but then what does the breaking point mean? What does that mean? Like, is the breaking point we, we move to a place that kids can go to school? Is the breaking point we get divorced? Is the breaking point we drive our kids
I don't see how that would help.
into the middle of the desert and leave them? Like, like
That
what
might help.
does breaking point mean? Does that just is it a state of mind? Is it an actual change? Is it I don't know. I don't know what a breaking point is anymore.
That's a good point. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's sort of like when some trauma happens to someone dies or something, tragic happens and people say, "Oh, I don't know how you can handle it. I would never be able to handle that." And
Yeah, what do they
I
mean by
I
that?
always what do you mean you wouldn't be able? Yes, you would. Because what does not handling mean? And there's obviously some very dark answers to that, but I think people, myself included, just sort of throw things into a basket of that would be too much, that I can't handle that's the breaking point, and not actually realizing that, sure, yeah, actually we would handle it. We would have to. We'd handle it in some maybe dysfunctional, terrible way, but we,
I mean, maybe it just means I would be very unhappy.
yeah, right. A huge departure from now.
Well, it's funny. It's not even good days and bad days. And it's not even good hours and bad hours. It's like 15-minute increments, where I feel pretty good and then I just feel awful.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel okay. And then,
yeah,
it's this roller coaster.
yes. Yes. The things that have been helping me are also the things that I end up feeling really guilty about.
Oh, like what?
Well, it feels like if I'm not working, like all of my friends who are working, both, both spouses or even single parents working, and, the screen time is non-negotiable. They just have to, their kid has to be playing games, watching shows, whatever. And you just sort of say, you know what? That's what we need to do to get through this moment. And that's
Yeah,
the
you know
only
what,
option.
though? I'm here to tell you that you can still feel very guilty about that.
Yes. But at least it feels like a necessity.
Yeah.
And for me, I just need that time in order. Well, I shouldn't say I need it. I don't need it, but it does help me to not feel like I am just completely at the end of my rope. And so
that is a thing of
kids were
value.
on screens for sometimes hours at a time, and I feel like I can handle making dinner and getting through to bedtime and actually, tucking them in at night and feeling like I don't want to throw them out with the trash. And but then I think, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be like baking cookies with them and taking them to the beach, and
they would go in the organics bin, right? Is
yeah,
that how that
compost. If only we still had it in New York. I think I'd actually put them in a free pile. But yeah, I don't know. It's that helps me feel somewhat sane to have a couple hours to myself. And I feel like I don't need it like other people need it, because I'm not using that time to be quote unquote productive.
I mean, your sanity is a thing of value, though.
It
is a requirement to the situation.
Right.
Like taking some care of yourself is a worthy end.
Yes, it is. But I feel guilty because my kids have so much screen time and that their brains are rotting away. And then I also feel guilty because my friends don't have that luxury, and they would kill for a couple of hours to stare at the wall in peace. I don't know. I apparently have a lot of guilt that I'm just uncovering tonight.
That's what I'm here for.
Peeling things back like an onion, David.
That's, hey, everyone needs a hobby. How are your kids doing?
I think they're okay. Also better than I would have expected. I kind of thought that they would be just so depressed and angry and combative and antsy to get out of the house and feeling trapped. And they really have been okay. They get sad sometimes about not being able to see their friends and have play dates. But they've actually been pretty content with just hanging out at home. I think they've really liked having lots of attention from us. And because of, I don't know what it's because of, but I've just been more lenient with them about stuff. You want to stay in your pajamas all day? Great. You want marshmallows in milk for breakfast? Cool. Um, you know, it's time to turn the screens off. What's that? Just one more hour? Okay, fine. But after that, we really need to turn it off. And so I think they have enjoyed that. And they've been okay. They're pretty happy, I think.
Do you feel like the other thing that's happening now this week, next week, is quote school end quote is ending, and we're entering quote summer end quote.
Right.
Do you feel, looking back on your 3 months as a what were you doing, second and kindergarten teacher?
Yep.
How let's do a performance review there
Of my work?
Oh yeah, well, of the situation.
Sure.
Evaluate the. Do you feel like any education happened?
School of Hard Knocks, maybe. Um, uh, not, not a lot. No. But I don't have a lot of anxiety about it, honestly. I feel like they'll catch up. They'll be fine. And I made a lot of judgment calls along the way that really disregarded the academic portion in favor of having fun and staying sane. There were plenty of days where there were still assignments that they were supposed to be doing, but they just were crying because they didn't want to do it anymore and they just wanted to play with their Legos. And a lot of days I just didn't fight.
What are you guys planning for the summer? Are you gonna do anything different than what you're doing now, or are things gonna, is your schedule gonna shift? Are you gonna breathe some different air, do something you're not doing?
Well, I don't know. We we've gone through a few different scenarios of how we might make it work this summer, including renting an RV and driving it across the country. And
Wow, I
this
like that plan.
it's it got crazy. Um, we've not made any decisions. We were sort of assuming all along that, because it's, I don't know how you felt about it, but I think for me it's felt like New York is just the epicenter, and everywhere else will reopen faster, be less intense, be less risky. And so if we can just get through this in New York, then we're home free for the summer. And obviously, being careful and responsible and all of that, not just going to Havasu and having a foam party, but that if we could just get out. What's that?
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Foam parties in Havasu?
Yes.
Oh,
A foam party, right?
Kinda. I feel like you've led a more interesting life than I have. Maybe tell me.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't actually know how they make the foam, but it's like a spring break party where they
Oh,
pump
yeah.
foam out of like big tubes and goes all over everybody. And I don't know. Man.
Nudity ensues. One hopes, or something like that.
Yeah. So I think all along we've thought like, oh yeah, by summer we'll be able to go and visit some family. But now the places where our parents and families live are places that are they're spiking. Dave's family lives in Utah, and it's one of or at least, a week ago, it was one of like 6 or 8 states that was reaching like an exponential phase, or at least a major increase day over day. And so now it really feels riskier to leave and be somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think our
So
mornings were
I don't
not
know.
heated.
And I think we just keep hoping that maybe in a few days, maybe in a couple weeks, we'll have more information. We'll have a better grasp on what the responsible thing to do is, and that just hasn't really materialized. So right now, we have no
plan. Well, let me just. I guess I'll just end where I started and ask you one more time. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I think. I think tonight I'm okay. Again, ask me tomorrow.
I'll call you back if you want. Well, thank you again. Let's wrap up there. But thank you for talking to me again. I really appreciate it. And
of course.
being so open as always. Let's do this again in 200 days. We'll see where we are there.
Oh, okay. It's going to get better.
It is. It's going to get better, right?
Right.
It is getting better.
If it doesn't, that's the end of the rope.
It's getting better.
It is.
It's getting better.
I'll talk to you soon.
My name is David Hoffman, and this is The Big Shut-In. I produce the show. It's a production of Race Car Radio, racecarradio.com. If you have feedback for me or you have a story that you think I should hear, please feel free to reach out, thebigshutin@racecarradio.com. Race Car Radio is a division of Citizen Race Car. Applied Imagination.